Hey, how's everybody doing today? This is Alice with Sage Leaf Studio, and I am working on some journal flaps. I've got a ton of envelopes that are just hanging around. This is actually kind of one of the reasons that I thought I would use up some envelopes because I have so many. And like in the case of this one, it was sealed shut. I guess it had been, maybe gotten too hot or warm or whatever. And I don't know. I just decided I'm never going to use it as an envelope, not in that sense. So now it's going to become a journal flap. And this is one that I've already hooked up, and it's the same one. It's the same kind. It's the same size and everything. And it too was sealed up on its own, closed up with nothing in it. And so I just decided, I'm gonna make some of these. And what it is a journal flap, and by that I mean it can be included in a journal as an extension of it. Like it's ready to use. All you have to do is glue this part down to, say this is a page in your journal, and you're just going to glue it to the edge. And that way you have a flip out. Like, say, it's this page. So on this side, let's see, let me just find a journal. That would be easier. That would be easier to explain, or even just a little book. Here's a little old cookbook that's sitting around here. So here's your, pretend this is your journal, and you've got, your page and whatever. And this can go on, any size page. Obviously, if it's a smaller journal and it's smaller than this, then you probably wouldn't want to use it because it's going to be sticking out. But anyway, so you would attach it like this, okay? Or, if you want to look at it this way, that you've got, and you can put it anywhere you want on the page. And then it's attached. So you flip it over, and then you've got this extra extension here. And since it's an envelope, you're going to, want to take advantage of the pocket that it creates. And so you could, poke anything you want in there. This was just some cardstock that I had laying around, and just embellished it with a little bit of a tea bag and a little sticker that looks like a stamp, and stamped it a couple of times. And obviously this one I was kind of, leaning towards a butterfly theme. I was thinking it would be really cool in a plant journal, or, you know, anything really. If you're out looking at butterflies and you have a journal with you or whatever, I don't know. But anyway, and then I had these cute little embellishments and stickers and stamps and just different paper and stuff. And this is actually washi tape. I was just trying to kind of help this along. So all I have to do is glue this down, get some glue on it, and attach it to my page, and make sure it stays nice and not get it too close. And then once it's, dry, it's attached. So there it is. Anyway, so I made that one. I had these larger envelopes, and this was just a bunch of white envelopes that I had. This is actually a piece from a pattern, an old pattern that I had and had kind of torn up. So anyway, but just, had this piece, and put a little bit of a doily, because this was, obviously a different shaped envelope. It has the more corner flap, triangular flap, and had a button that I stuck on there, and just some little embellishments. So it goes on like this and flaps over like that. So that's why it's called the flap. Anyway, just embellished some more stuff over here, and just stuck a few things in here. This was just, one of these cards that I was trying to use up, and that could be glued down better. But this was more of that paper that was in with this, and this really wasn't like a pattern. This was really something more like out of an old magazine, an Elizabeth Arden ad. But I thought they looked like kind of like the patterns, the covers, the packaging, So anyway, yeah, this was also Dewberry. I don't know what that brand was. I'm sure it was a thing back in the day, and I don't know if it still exists, but a new slant on beauty. Anyway, and this was just a little card I had, a little teacup. I thought that was kind of cute. Anyway, you can stick whatever you want to in there. Um, this was just some ideas that I had for this, and just kind of keeping in with the kind of pinks and things that I was using on the inside there. Anyway, so I did that one, and the very first one that I did was this one, and it's quite chunky, and it's a little more whimsical. It's not as old-fashioned as the other ones, but same envelope as the other one, same size, but this had a little whimsical little dog on there. And this one turned into a little more than just a flap. So it's actually a journal. So it's going to be a journal within a journal. And I even wrote instructions, and this one was actually an okay envelope. It wasn't stuck to itself, but glue this flap to the edge of a page in your journal. So again, and this one is the opposite direction. So this one, I'm just using several pages just to show you, but you would glue it down here, and I didn't embellish this yet. I could, but I could leave it for someone else to embellish. And then, when you flip your page over, you've got this guy, and then he opens up like this. And here's the envelope, the meat of the deal, the pocket part. And there's just, some little cards. Again, trying to use up some stuff. I was actually playing around with some stamps that I had, so got that with a little washi tape in there. I don't think there's anything else in there. And while I was at it and had all, I'm going to stop doing that since it's not really attached, since I'm trying to show you this, but just embellished it, but also put one of these, got a bunch of these little pockets, and I just glued one in, and it's just, one of these that has like several different openings, and I even left room back there for something tall, which I ended up making this tag. Again, trying to use up scraps, trying to use up extra envelopes because I have so many. This is more of that cardstock that I was trying to kind of use up. So these little guys can go in here, and that can go in there. And this little guy, and I just, cut the edges, just did different things with them and inked them. So that can be like that. But then this is a signature that I sewed into the spine, if you will, of the envelope. So you actually end up with and then suppose you're doing this. So you end up with this extra signature in here. So you've got, your regular, or you could just use this if you wanted to, and it just doesn't have a back. But then I think since I wrote that on there, you really should glue it down. But you could glue it right there. No, I wouldn't do that. But anyway, this is a signature, and it's just full of cute little papers that I had. This is out of a coloring book. The other side of that one. There's this one. And then inside was this page. This is my center of my signature, and this is, I just folded these back over to make little pockets. So I've got, now look, that almost looks like it needs to go, yeah, patterns. It needs to go with the other one. So maybe I'll put that in there. I don't know. But anyway, so I've got that and another little card. And this is one from one of those kits where you make your own cards. And this is just yet another piece of card that I had. And then this is a little ditty that you pop the pieces apart and create some sort of a card. I don't know. I have a set, like a whole booklet of it, and I end up taking pieces out and using them for other things. Like sometimes, like this might become an embellishment on a page or something. Isn't that pretty? That's really pretty. Anyway, and just stuck that in there. So these were just a little set of pockets on the inside, on the center part. And then we go back through and I've just got some washi tape and embellish this because I was thinking, well, if you needed somewhere to write, some of this is you can write on it. I mean, you could write here, but you might not. You might have a hard time like with this page finding a place to write. So on this one, I took yet another piece of card that I had kicking around and just created a writing space there. And you could color here. And then I did not, this is the other end of this page up here, but I scooched it over and it's got this larger flap, but I didn't glue it down. I mean, we could, and you could end up putting things inside of there, but also it could be just more writing space, you know, just to extend your area right here. So anyway, I mean, who's to say that it's, you know, done or anything, but I just occasionally you need stuff to put in the journals when you're making them. And it's nice to have a few things just kind of kicking around, they're ready to go or whatever. So that, and this. So for this one, I was thinking, and let me put this one here for my, it's going to be sort of my inspiration. But I was thinking, keeping in the same line of stuff, that this would be really pretty. And it just so happens that these little papers that I got in some sort of a set from like a thrift store, they fit perfectly on the inside and the outside of these particular envelopes. I'll have to look and see if I have more of these envelopes. I'm sure I do because I have a huge stash of envelopes. So anyway, that could fit there. Actually, maybe I want this one on the inside. It doesn't really matter. They're pretty. I'm thinking that there. This one can go here. And then I just happened to, like I said, I'm trying to use up all this cardstock, and so I had this card and just folded it over, and it's going to be perfect to stick in there. So I'll probably embellish it with something, you know, botanical looking, because that's sort of the theme we're going here. Anyway, so I'm going to get busy, I guess, inking all this stuff and gluing it down. And I want to do the same thing I did here, where I'm going to make a notch so you can see that it's definitely a tuck pocket. And I remember when I did this, I notched this out first. I'll show you. But I wanted to make the same, pretty much the same notch for the piece of paper that I glued on. So I'll show you how I do that. Kind of makes it easier to deal with. So anyway, I'm gonna get to inking and gluing. Okay, so here's where I'm gonna show you, if I can find a marker. You could use a pencil, you could use anything, but I'm gonna line this page up right where I want it on the envelope. And so I've got my, if you can see it even, a little notch cut out here. So I want this to be just a little bit bigger. So I'm going to go on this side of the edge of it. I don't know if you can see it there very well, but believe me when I say I've got that and that. So now I'm going to go back into this page, this piece of paper, and I'm going to look for those little marks that I made, and I'm going to line them up in my punch pretty much right there. Yeah. And so, get that out of the way. Oh, yeah, I did marker right there a little bit, didn't I? So this should line up really well with, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you just don't want it like off askew, like have your punch over here when this one's over here, or have it, you know, just be kind of messy looking. So anyway, so that worked out great. So, you know, it's just got the same kind of shape. So now I can go back in and ink this guy. And remember, I don't need to ink here because that's going to get glued down. So I did ink inside there just in case you can see it when this, gets all said and done and gets inserted into whatever journal you're going to insert it in. So try not to ink myself too much while I'm inking this page. And then I got to go back here and ink my little notch on that. So there we go. So now that's ready to be glued down. And normally I like on this one, I didn't do it on this, but like on this, I had like a couple of different layers of papers and stuff. And I love doing that. But the fact that these are just exactly, pretty much perfectly sized to this, it's no big thing. And I don't feel like I need to put anything underneath it to layer it. So there you go. So I'm just going to grab some Fabri-Tac because it's right here. And I don't really want this. This is real thin paper. Kind of reminds me of almost like newsprint. It's not quite that thin newspaper, but these are also, and you probably saw when I was inking, these are pretty flimsy, pretty thin papered envelopes. So I don't want to use a water-based glue that's going to make it all puckery. So I'm just going to go in. I'm going to hopefully get some glue. I don't know if you can see from my hand. Perfect. So now it's out of the way. These are actually ready to go. This is ready to go. I could embellish with some things, with some flowers or something, some extra, get some three-dimensional stuff going on. But I think I liked the whole washi tape thing on this one. So, and since these flaps are kind of, they've been torn because they were stuck to the envelope, I think I'm going to do another set of that. And I'm thinking, I don't know, I had these, so this is the one I used on this guy, and it would be pretty with this, but I was just trying to find something that was almost exactly the same width as the flap so that I wouldn't have to worry about it falling over the edge. I kind of like this. It's got a little gold to it, but it's kind of pretty. But I also kind of like this because it's kind of got, and you have to figure, okay, it's actually going to be showing, you're going to see it unless you change something about it, but for the most part, you're going to see this when you see this, because when you open the flap, it's going to open to this. So I don't know. This is, it's almost like I don't know. I think I'm going to go for it. I'm liking that it's got some color to it. So yeah, I think that's pretty. It's got the same kind of yellow that's going on in the image. So I'm just gonna try to line it up as best I can on the edge, and I'm probably sticking my head in the shot. But I'm trying to get as close as I can to see what I'm doing. And I think that works. I think that's pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and cut that off right there. Yeah, I think that's pretty. I think it works. I don't know really what you would consider the top and the bottom. I think it's that kind of washi tape. So it's all make sure it's really good and down. And maybe I should glue it down, but I don't know. I think it's going to be okay. But I'll just cut the excess off. Yeah, that's easy for me to say. Okay, we're just going to go around. I might be cutting a little bit of the envelope flat, but that's okay. Nothing's really ever that perfect in this stuff. So there we go. Get a little, give me that. Get that out of the way. I've got one more little bitty piece of it. Now it's stuck to my finger. I can't get it off in the trash. There we go. Okay. And just that little area right there. Yeah, that looks good. So, here it is in a nutshell. And like I said, I've got a little card I could embellish. I could put some flowers. I could find some more of this paper and, tear a piece and put it here. It's just depends on whatever you want to use it for. You could stick index cards in here, those littler ones. You could act like you're, uh, keeping specimens of different botanical things, plants, and all kinds of stuff, flowers. Anyway, but I thought it was kind of fun, and it's a good way to use up stuff that's, laying around. I was just, like I said, trying to get rid of some of this card and looking at all these envelopes and just going, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with all these envelopes? So there we have it. This one, you don't have to really see that, but let's lay it out there. We've got these guys, this guy. So yeah, anyway, it's fun, and it just gave me a sense of purpose for doing it and having a chance to get rid of some of that stuff and have those ready to go and be, an extension and embellishment in my journal. And that way I've got them ready to go and don't have to go hunting and stopping and making something to embellish with. So anyway, I thought it was fun. I hope you did too. And if you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe and all that good stuff. And I will see you in the next video.